Hey everyone, welcome. We are back once more with episode 2 this time of Therosian Odyssey, season 3, Isles of Uncertainty. 2 weeks ago, and I keep wanting to say last week, but it wasn't last week, it was 2 weeks ago. We had our first episode back with our first player character, Astrea. And my goodness, it really feels good to be back in this world, hanging out with these players again. I've missed them so much. I've missed this game so much. This week, though, we are going to be focusing on Callista. Wave Callista. Now, I explained last episode what's going on with this show, because some of you may remember us from a different channel. So head over to the last episode over on my YouTube channel if you want the full story. But if you are new to this channel or new to this game, I ran 2 seasons of Therosian Odyssey as a limited series, so sort of 8 to 10 episodes, over on Girls Run These Worlds over the course of the past couple of years, and it was phenomenal fun. Therosian Odyssey takes the Theros or Magic the Gathering, but I've kind of built upon it, created my own version, heavily inspired by ancient Greek legends and stories. And given the nature of epic stories of ancient Greece, we have now moved the game over to my channel, where we will be playing every other Sunday in a long-standing campaign. The actual play format didn't quite let us achieve what we wanted to achieve with this, so we're very excited about that. At the end of season 2, our players were each kind of pulled into a dream with Clothis, goddess of destiny, great weaver of fate, and she began to shine a light on the reasons they'd been pulled together as a party in the first place. But coming into season 3, we really wanted to reacquaint ourselves with the characters, touch a little upon some of their backstory, and give them all the attention they deserve. So we are kind of now honing in on those dreams. We are expanding them, making them longer, and hopefully reintroducing these amazing party members to our audience, old and new. So without further ado, I've done a lot of talking already. Let us introduce ourselves. I'm Kat. I have she, her pronouns. I'm also known as the Law Mistress. I will be the Dungeon Mistress of this game. And Lulu, let's hear about you, your pronouns, and I want to hear about the character that we will be focusing on, Callista.
Hello, I'm Lulu, she, her. I will be playing Callista, the party's nervous oracle who is trying to find her own voice and be more sure of herself. She's a part Triton cleric of, well, she was raised in the Temple of Afara, so she's a cleric of Afara. And she is finally coming to realize that she is stronger than she thinks, and that she can actually maybe keep this party together and figure out what in the world all of the goddesses want from them.
Amazing. And can you please describe for us what class is Callista, and what does she look like? I know that in the overlay we have a lovely, gorgeous piece of art by Fantasy Hearts Artwork of Callista, but for accessibility reasons, I would like you to describe what Callista looks like anyway.
Yeah, definitely. She is a relatively short, mostly human-looking woman. Her skin is very light blue, and she's got long, kind of dark bluish green hair. She wears blue robes, and she just, like, on the backs of her arms and on the backs of her legs, if you were to look really closely, she just has almost a little bit of a fin, the evidence of her Triton heritage. She is a cleric. Well, she's a multi-class. She's cleric with a couple levels of rogue. She thinks she's a much better rogue than she actually is, but she is trying.
We've had some unfortunate roles with Callista trying to be a rogue, which is really sad. But my favorite thing is that she's I love that she's a rogue, and with 2 levels in rogue, that's pretty roguey. I think that we've just had some bad dice rolls, to be honest.
The nat 1 when she was trying to pickpocket the diamonds off of Hector was perfect. Talk about the dice doing what they're
Yeah, what they're supposed to do. But
Yeah.
I do also think what was hilarious is because Callista is very sweet-natured. It was not taken as like a stop thief moment. It was just like she just was like really taken aback and just completely misunderstood what was going on, because he was just like, oh, surely not Callista. All right. So, thank you for that, and thank you for your description. Just some safety bits before we start. Theros is rooted in ancient Greece and fantasy tropes. So you will be finding some of the things that you usually find within sort of games and media of that nature. I won't be including any discrimination or hate speech with any kind of misogynistic, transphobic, homophobic, racist, or ableist lens within the game. But things like difficult family relationships, death, power dynamics, wealth divide, things that kind of come up as fantasy tropes within those may still be prevalent. If anything makes you feel uncomfortable, then thank you for joining and supporting us, but please protect your headspace first. Well, Lulu, I think that's everything. Normally I forget something, but I think that's everything. So how are you feeling? Are you ready to go?
I am. I'm excited. I've been rewatching some of season 2 to refresh myself, and I am excited to jump back in. It is such a cool world.
Oh, thanks. It's made even cooler by the players that play in it. Wow, that sounds so cheesy as we're saying that. All right then, Callista. So, evening draws in, and the sun is setting low over the glittering Siren Sea as another day on the ocean draws to an end. Your time out on your voyage to the Dakar Isles has been filled with adventure, Callista. Dangerous, for certain, but you've seen and learned a lot. And as the Isles themselves kind of draw closer at this point, as the ship is kind of traveling, you can see them sort of just on the horizon, which has caused much excitement amongst the crew. They're drawing closer and closer, and everything seems filled with possibility. So let us talk first of all, I guess, as we get into this, about how the evening is kind of drawing in for Callista. Now, I'll remind you of a few things. I know that you've gone back and watched a few things, but just so that the audience are also aware of what Callista's been doing on this journey. Callista, first of all, has struck up somewhat of an unusual friendship with Hector, the priest of Thassa that is aboard this boat. And I'm calling it unusual because Hector is not popular on this boat. He's necessary. It would be, especially having lived in Miletus pretty much your whole life, you would know that it is considered an insult to Thassa if you don't go on a voyage out with someone who is pious, or kind of especially a big voyage with this kind of size of ship, like little fishing boats and things like that. You go out and you kind of take your little charms and say certain prayers to Thassa for protection and devotion. But on a big voyage like this, you're expected to have someone who is very pious and knows sort of some of the more intricate rituals and things like that would appease Thassa in a situation that might arise at sea that could be Thassa's doing. So Hector is necessary. And you are pretty sure that is the only reason that Hector has not been thrown overboard at this point, because he is also extremely stuffy, quite pretentious. people do not really like Hector. Or at least if they do, it's sort of this like they tolerate Hector for the most part. They get frustrated by him even if they don't hate him, as it were. That's where you feel like I think the captain is at with Hector. It's not like outright hatred, but my goodness, does Hector make Captain Cascade's blood boil at times. So it's odd that you've kind of struck up this almost friendship, and I'm gonna again say friendship possibly more on Hector's side in a lot of ways. Like, he seems to have latched on a little bit to the fact that you are quite kind to him and give him the time of day, and speak with him on matters around piety. And he knows that you are obviously an acolyte, a priestess of the Temple of Afara, and an oracle. So he does show you a little. He does show you probably more respect, I think, than he would show most of the people aboard this ship. You've also, on the complete flip side, let's take your cleric levels and throw them away for a moment and just look at your rogue levels. You have also been taking lessons from Suri, pickpocketing lessons from Suri, the youngest member of the crew. You're pretty sure she isn't really even crew as such. She doesn't seem to do an awful lot of crew-like things. She seems to be there because Captain Cascade has agreed to have her there. And you know from your time with Jericho, when you and Eva went to see Jericho and arranged sort of this crew and this ship, that Jericho is the reason that Suri is on this voyage. Jericho is like, I'm going to get you taught how to do some roguey stuff, and I know just the kid that can teach you. So Jericho has something to do with it, but you're not entirely sure what. But Cascade has brought Suri along, and Suri just seems to spend a lot of time. Well, she's got sticky fingers. She has a bit of a penchant for mischief. She seems to like pranking people, much to the crew's displeasure. And you are also fairly certain, thanks to sort of her choice of accessories and clothing and things like that, that she is probably a member of one of Meletus's nefarious criminal gangs, the Piranhas. There are two in Meletus, and they kind of battle over territory a lot. And she, you're pretty sure, is or was a member of the Piranhas from Meletus. Hence why she seems to enjoy criminal activity. And you've been taking lessons from her and striking up somewhat of a relationship. She seems to quite like you. She actually hasn't played any pranks on you. So I think that's a good sign. I think that's a good sign that things are going okay. So you've been doing that. Lastly, you've also been aiding and learning from Captain Cascade how to sort of navigate, essentially, the ship's navigational tools and systems and how it works. You've been getting quite good at it. She now, at this point, I think, trusts you enough to leave you to your own devices with it and only checks your work at sort of key altering a course, as it were. Like, for the most part, she trusts it and then just sort of comes and checks on it every so often and adjusts or whatever and explains why. But you've learned a lot from her. She's a very she seems like someone who could be very impatient at times, or like maybe impatient isn't the right word, a strict teacher, but actually she seems very patient and willing to give you sort of like the time of day, and even quite happy that you want to kind of muck in and learn how to do something and do it. Oh no, Millie, go on, go down there. There we go. I could see my cat coming and I was like, no, please. Not in front of the iPad camera. So those are the kind of things that you've been doing. And on this evening, a celebration of sorts seems to have struck up. You very recently defeated Kahara, a very angry phoenix made of lightning and storm, and you now have the egg. But what started as an idea from Hector to pay homage in a service to Thassa for like your, her protection in this in your journey so far, and the fact that you've gone through so much and you're still alive. I think he wanted to do sort of a sit down service where everyone sort of like listened to him preach for a while. And over the course of talking about the idea, it has now become a party. And every so often, crew members, just to try to appease him and keep him on board with the idea, crew members kind of raise their drinks and kind of yell "Tathassa," and it seems to like every time he seems to be getting slightly frustrated about it. Tell me, how is Callista feeling about her voyage so far, and like the adventures that you've been on, sort of thing?
Well, I mean, Callista has absolutely loved it. This is everything she ever dreamed about when she was back at the temple in Miletus, and she would look out her bedroom window and daydream about being out on the open water and feeling the sea spray on her face and getting to just be free and to be out there. And so it's everything she's ever wanted, and at the same time it's also nothing like she expected. And she actually, I think during this whole party, would kind of just go to the prow of the ship. I looked up ship terms for this.
You've done better than me already.
But she would go up there and just sit and look out over the water and think about things and how she finally does have this adventure, this grand adventure that she always dreamed about. And she has all of this seeming freedom to go and to be and to do. But yeah, she also has all of these responsibilities. And it's like she's finally gotten everything she's wanted, but not in the way that she wanted. I mean, she feels beholden to this party to keep them together and to keep them safe. And also to the crew. And she's thinking a lot about the crew at the moment and how Captain Cascade is worried about having this egg on board. And she's thinking about Hector and how she empathizes with him because he doesn't really fit in here. And she never really fit in when she was growing up in the temple. And I think that's why she has an affinity towards Hector. And she just wants to make him smile and maybe loosen up just a little bit. And she's thinking about Suri, and she's a little worried about the two of them. She remembers that Hector lost his bag of diamonds. And so
I will say that on that, there has definitely been some bubbling tension. When the ship was attacked by Kahara, if I'm remembering this correctly, Callista momentarily lost consciousness.
Yep.
And during that time, Hector, who is the sort of another member of the sort of a cleric, essentially, on board the ship, rushed over to try to heal and make sure everything is okay, and was obviously very worried. I'm pretty sure that it was Kaliuka in the end that ended up healing, and that caused something. But what actually happened in that moment was Hector, always at that point he kind of went into like worst case scenario mode. He went for his bag of diamonds, sea diamonds specifically, because he is priest of Thassa, and he went to grab them because just in case the worst had happened and he was going to need to properly bring you back before you were fully gone. And the diamonds that he so voraciously hoards were not in his pocket. You had tried to steal them a few days earlier, just to see if you could. It had caused a whole thing, but you know that Suri had observed this interaction and possibly had an idea of where the diamonds were, and you suspect that Hector suspects also. As it transpired, within a few hours, the diamonds did return themselves mysteriously to Hector's pockets, as if he, the pockets that he checked 1,000 times, suddenly they were back. And she did look quite pleased with herself. But rather than making him relieved or anything like that, I think that's actually soured his mood more. He seems angrier. He keeps looking across at Suri, and it's definitely the air of unresolved tension, unresolved. He wants to say something to her. He wants to be angry at her, I guess, or there's something about it that has bothered him beyond, oh, my diamonds went missing for a few hours, and he's not quite willing to actually go and address this, but he's avoiding her. Like, he won't stand in the vicinity of her. He makes a point of sort of huffing whenever she walks by. It's very childish almost, but I think that you're very insightful. I know that your insight
Yes.
is ridiculous. I don't think it comes from a place of him trying to be stuffy or pretentious. I think it comes from a place of him not understanding or knowing how to say what he wants to say at this point. And there's something, some deep-rooted fear. It's not just because, oh, she's a little thief and she stole my diamonds and got the best of me for a moment. There's something more to it that is bothering him, that he doesn't know how to express. I think, but you're sort of looking out over the prow, and sort of watching the water. He does sort of come over and settle himself near you. I take it you're not really engaging in the festivities, as it were.
Yeah, she had been, but she just needed a moment, so she went out and was just looking over the water and thinking.
A lot of the festivities are kind of happening on the dock. So there is like a bit downstairs where they could be celebrating, but I guess it's so that it's quite nice. Like, everyone's kind of on not the dock, the deck.
I knew what you meant.
Here we go. Words. I was like, the dock. That doesn't make any sense. The deck. It's kind of actually a lot of it is happening on the deck. So there's like, I'm going to imagine, and I don't want to put any interference into other people's answers, but I'm going to imagine we have a barbarian on board that has access to bagpipes, and imagine there's music.
I hope so.
I hope so. I'm going to get to Kalioka's turn, and she's going to be like, I'm never touching those bagpipes ever again, and I'm going to have to be like, well. But I imagine, there's a lot of like joking and laughing and like raising, and Hector has found his way over towards you and is also kind of looking out towards the sea, and he kind of goes, oh, just needed a minute to yourself, did you?
And she'll acknowledge him, and she'll, I really did. I'm used to being around people, but I'm not used to really being a part of a group. So it is good to just have some time to think to myself. And she'll just gesture for him to sit down next to her.
Oh, that's cute, because he was definitely about to be like, oh, well, I'll leave you to it. But he kind of like does that awkward, like, oh, you wanted time to yourself. Oh, and then when you kind of gesture, he's like, oh, she does want me here. And he kind of like, makes a big fuss over his robes and sits himself down on a barrel, looks slightly uncomfortable about the fact that it's a barrel, wishes that it was like some kind of cushioned chair, I guess. But he kind of like sort of like rubs it because he's a satyr, by the way. I haven't described him to those of you that might be new, but he's a satyr. So he's got like sort of these curling horns and a white goatee, and he's quite old. But he's got these great big blue flowing robes with sort of like embroidery that is very reminiscent of Thassa and Thassa's clergy. You would recognize it from your time in Miletus. Like there's so many temples in Miletus, and so you would probably have had the sort of various colors and symbols and things drummed into your head from a very early age. And he kind of settles himself down and he goes, I know the feeling well. Even out here, even on the sea, I feel a little out of sorts. Less because of the sea, of course, more because of the people.
And she'll think about that for a minute and kind of look at him and just kind of, people are difficult. Being in a group is hard, I'm learning. But I have to make an effort to engage with them. Like, take for example, Suri.
Oh, his face sours the moment you say her name.
And Callista will see that and think about it for just a moment and then be like, Suri, I think she likes to play jokes on people. And I remember there were girls in the temple when I was growing up that were like that. And they only ever seemed to play pranks on people that they actually liked. I always kind of took it as a, you're only in trouble with somebody when they're not playing pranks on you and joking around with you. So, I think that means that Suri probably actually does like you.
Well, she is always playing pranks on me. And he kind of thinks about it for a moment. And he says, I can't prove it, but I'm certain she took my diamonds. It's not even about the diamonds. It's, you know why I have those diamonds.
No.
It's to protect us. It's to make sure that we all stay safe. And I went out of my way before this trip to buy a diamond for every single member of this crew. Every single one. From my savings. And he looks like very put out for a moment. And then he kind of like watches the party and he says, I don't think any of them really think about it. They probably think I'm just boarding them, but I'm just trying to keep them safe.
I think I don't think they realize how much you care, because you keep yourself so aloof and so distant. And I get it. That's how I was for a long time too. You can't show your personality when you're an oracle. You just have to be the voice of the god. And so you don't really get to have your own voice. But I think you need to let the crew know that you care about them. And I don't know if Suri took your diamonds, but you got them back. So...
Yes, well, most likely a prank of hers to try to make me look foolish. She often likes to make me look foolish.
And Callista's really going to try to convince Hector that Suri... And she doesn't actually know what Suri's motivation is. She can speculate because she hasn't talked to Suri about this. But she's going to try to convince him that if Suri didn't care, she wouldn't be pranking him. I work with people like that where so long as they're making fun of you and they're joking with you, they like you. And so that's what she thinks Suri is doing. And she's going to try to convince Hector maybe to loosen up a little bit.
You can make a persuasion roll for me.
Ooh, a persuasion roll. I even got some dice out for this.
Get some dice out.
Oh. Well, let's see. I rolled a 5. And what do I have for persuasion? I can't see it because it's right... Oh, come on. I have a +1 to persuasion. So I don't think she's being very persuasive.
What I'll give you is I think that Hector's quite. He doesn't seem that way, but he is quite wise. He has some wisdom to him, even though he doesn't seem that way a lot of the time. I think he sees that you're a very caring, trusting person, and I don't think he takes offense to it. He doesn't think, oh, Chris is trying to make me like Surrey and things like that. I think he just thinks that he sees something in Surrey, perhaps that you. It's not just. He can see that you think you see something in Surrey that he's not seeing, and he is listening. But he also is very convinced that he sees something in Surrey that you are not seeing. So it's going to take a little bit of. I think it's going to take a little bit of working to get him to really realize. And I think he kind of he does listen. He does he's sort of respectful enough to listen to what you're saying. He's not immediately defensive or anything. It could have gone very wrong. But he kind of sits and he listens for a moment, and he says, even if that's the case, even if she didn't mean any harm, even if it's because, I don't know, this ship is boring and frustrating, it doesn't change the fact that had something have happened to you and I needed my diamonds in that moment and I didn't have access to them, it could have been very bad. She put us all in a lot of danger, whether she meant to or not. And there's no taking responsibility, there's no accountability for it.
Have you tried to talk to her? To let her know why those diamonds are so important?
She's impossible to talk to.
Well, how do you know if you haven't tried?
Oh my god, this is giving me such you don't like to have fun vibes.
Well, Callista's new to being a diplomat. You know, she's not particularly used to trying to convince people of things on her own, so.
And I think he kind of, he sort of looks at the floor for a moment, and he says, I know what you're trying to do, Callista, but, you know, she's a lot like my brother, and he was not a good listener, believe me.
What was your brother's name?
Horatio.
Not to put you on the spot or anything.
No. That's the name I came up with him, but I didn't think that it was actually going to be asked, so I was like, I'm going to call him Horatio because that's another funny H name that just kind of Hector and Horatio. I love it. And then when you asked, I was like, no, I have to say it out loud and not laugh. So obviously he's not laughing. He actually looks quite sad as he says it. And your passive insight would definitely give you a sense of there's some deep pain around his brother, potentially something that he doesn't want to go into right now, but he kind of sighs, and he is giving you that much at least.
And I think Callista will respect that and just tell him that, you know, if you ever want to talk about it, I'm here. Maybe, you know, over a game of chess sometime.
Yes, I still have to teach you and to play your friend Estrella. I think she said that she was interested in chess. It's a great game.
Yeah, I think Estrella will give you a run for your money. She's very smart and very tactical, and I think I'm willing to learn. I think we would have more fun if we just diced, but I would like to learn. I think it would be good for me.
No doubt, no doubt. And yes, no doubt that, I mean, don't ever tell her I said this, of course, but personally, I think that Estrella will absolutely flounce me. She's a student of the Decation. They're quite smart over there. And they probably take chess as one of their classes. But I'll tell you what, if you will sit and learn chess with me, then perhaps I will indulge in a game of dice. And he gives a look as he says it, with you.
Thank you. I think you'll really enjoy it. And you never know, maybe if the crew and Suri see you doing something that looks like fun, maybe they'll think you're a little fun, and maybe they'll be more open to you.
Well, I'm not out here to impress Suri, but I will consider your words. You are most wise, especially for your years, Callista. Sometimes I find it hard to remember how young you are. And he kind of gets up, and he thinks on it and he goes, dice. I still maintain that if a game is all luck, then it is no game. And he kind of like waves. He's clearly kind of in the mindset. And you can see there's still like this sense of like pain. Even kind of talking about his brother seems to have like put him in some kind of, not a funk necessarily, but he's opened up a bit more than he was expecting to, and now he's trying to withdraw a little bit before he gets too involved in the conversation. I think that's what Callista would get from that.
Okay. I think after Hector leaves, she sits there for a couple more minutes and just enjoying looking out over the ocean, and then she'll realize that the freedom of motion that she has to be out on the ocean is everything she always wanted, but it's not really freedom. She still has responsibilities to the crew, to the party, to the goddesses that are watching over her. And she'll get up and she'll rejoin the party. And I think she'll look actually for Captain Cascade. And she just wants to have a moment with her to reassure her that we are not going to let that egg hatch. Or if it does, she wants to make sure that Captain Cascade knows that Gliss is going to make sure that the ship is safe. Because she knows that Cascade is worried about Estrella and Eva's attachment to the Phoenix egg.
I'm very, very. I just need to draw attention to the fact that Jen has just written in the chat, "Speak for yourself" about the egg. So what you do notice is, as you kind of take these couple more minutes, you watch Hector. He kind of retreats back into the crowd, and he excuses himself. He just seemed like he's been trying to get the party to go back to being like a sermon, and then every so often the crew will kind of like toast or whatever to try to be like, Hector, relax, Hector. It's, we're so grateful to Thasset, like type, and everything you do for us. Come on, sit, let's have a drink, sort of thing. That's how it's been for that evening, to try to keep him. Keep the preaching to a minimum. I think you can see that he kind of came to you because he's clearly like given up on this endeavor, but he's also had this sort of sense of wistfulness, I guess, that he wishes that he could maybe not necessarily join in, but he could find it easier to interact with people, or find it easier to be at peace with this being the vibe.
God, I feel that as a human, as Lulu.
I know. I absolutely feel that. Not me related to Hector. What on earth? But yeah, so he kind of makes his way, and he heads up, and he's like, right, okay, well, enjoy your evening, have your fun. You would also notice Estrella she's watching like a hawk for the moment that it seems, and you know this because you know how Australia is, the moment that it seems socially acceptable for her to leave. And the moment that Hector starts to make his excuses of going downstairs, she's like, well, she's off, like, I'm gonna call it too. I'm gonna call it a night anyway, bye. So she kind of heads down, so you know she's gonna be kind of in your cabin, heading down to sleep. When you get down there, probably she'll already be asleep, actually. You see Suri in the corner, and you failed your persuasion roll, so Suri doesn't. So Suri and Hector do not have any kind of interaction. Hector kind of says goodnight. He doesn't huff necessarily, so I guess you could call that a step up, but he pointedly is still not looking at Suri. There's still tension, but he has listened to what you've said at least, so there's that. And he makes his way down the hatch. Suri kind of starts to head towards her little boat to kind of try and be hurt by herself. You find Cascade. Cascade is in the middle of the revelry. She's kind of pulled up a sort of a crate, and a couple of crates. She's sat back on it, and she's kind of leaning against one of the main masts. Her legs are up on another crate, sort of slightly crossed over, and she's like drinking. She's not drinking in excess necessarily, but enough that you know, like she's kind of commanding the respect of the crew still. And she's sort of sat chatting, and Tilly is next to her, and every so often Tilly leans in and murmurs something, and she kind of like loudly laughs or kind of expresses something back. But yeah, she seems quite at ease. You do know though that there has been a little bit of tension since this egg gate, shall we call it, since Estrella basically said, we're keeping this egg on board. So she is watching, and you watch as she watches after Estrella, and she kind of like purses her lips for a moment, but she's not you don't get the sense that she's one to necessarily hold on to grudges, but she's more of a 3 strikes and you're out kind of person. So if someone does a thing, she'll be like, okay, I'll remember that. She'll move on. Then if it happens again, then she's going to be like, now we're getting a problem. Like, so she's kind of, you get this sense that she's got a sort of a tab on Estrella a little bit in that regard. She respects Estrella's mind and her intelligence, and she doesn't want to fall out with Estrella, but she is frustrated that as the captain of the ship, her words were not immediately heeded, and the egg didn't end up in the ocean. So you make your way over, and she sort of looks up and she goes, Callista, hello. How can I help you?
Oh, I wanted to tell you about, you throw quite a party. This is really nice.
Oh, well, we do the best we can, considering we've got a very limited amount of space here, but thanks.
And I just wanted to reassure you. I know you were a little worried about Estrella and Eva wanting to keep the egg.
Yeah, yes. Well.
And I just wanted to reassure you and to let you know that I'm not going to let anything happen to my found family or to your crew. So I
just of your found family, that's so cute. Sorry, I'm just like losing my mind over here. Carry on.
And Callista just goes on and just to reassure Cascade that, if it comes to it, she'll make the hard call if necessary to make sure that everyone on the ship is safe. Not that she knows that she can do anything, but
for another persuasion roll.
Let's see if my dice can do any better. That's a natural 20.
Hey!
So much better.
I think she starts off, and she has this sort of almost like knowing, like, when someone's like looking at you like with that kind of sense of I appreciate what you're trying to say, but this is all bullshit coming out of your mouth right now. That kind of just like Not necessarily because she thinks what you're saying, you're lying to her. More that she's just like, and have you run this by Estrella? Like, very like, you're telling me that these people are not going to do this thing, but I get the sense that you won't be able to stop them if they are. And then as you kind of talk to her and you really, I think with a natural 20, you find this sort of strength in your voice, and you kind of start off in your usual Callista manner of like, oh, don't worry, I'm not gonna. And then as time goes on, you're like, no, I am not gonna let this happen. If needs be, I will make the hard call because I know that this is bothering you. I don't want tension between us. And she's sort of she's kind of like holding like a sort of a tankard in her hand, and she kind of like leans back and listens and is listening and engaging properly. And she goes, well, I appreciate that, Callista. I appreciate that. And this is nice. This is a nice side of you to see. And then she kind of like leans forward. I still fear you won't be able to stop Estrella if she wants to hatch that egg, but I trust that you will all find a way to safely engage in any experimentation that will satisfy her very curious mind. I don't want any experiments, any lightning, magic, fire, then all of this, I don't want it on my ship unless it is the last resort. We need to keep these people safe. If we happen upon an island where there is a suitable radius of, potential collateral damage, then by all means, I suppose. But let me tell you, if Kahara hatches from that egg and she in any way seems to want to cause us any kind of harm or danger, I will slaughter that bird myself and throw the egg in the sea, and I don't care what Estrella has to say about it. And she looks very serious.
And Callista will be just as serious back, and she's like, don't worry, I will take care of Estrella. That sounds wrong. I will make sure that...
Don't worry, I'll take care of Estrella. All right.
Don't worry, I will make sure that the crew is safe and make sure that Estrella understands that, the crew's safety is more important than anything.
Mm-hmm.
I personally believe that she can pull just about anything off if she puts her mind to it, including hatching this egg and turning this lightning murder bird into a friend.
Oh, no doubt. She went to a fancy school. She's had fancy lessons. She's a fancy person. She knows what she's doing, I'm sure. But in case she doesn't, I think I would just appreciate if sometimes she would remember that out here on the sea, this is my area of expertise. I know what is out here. I know what's dangerous out here. And she doesn't always know best. Often, perhaps, but not always. And she kind of smiles, and then she goes, but you don't need to worry. We're good. We're perfectly fine. I have long forgotten this tension. Just as long as she respects my authority, then I will respect her knowledge.
And I think at that, Callista will just nod and maybe go get just a small drink.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everyone is having fun and partying, and Callista's not really ever had any alcohol except for communal wine or whatever. So she'll just get a small drink, and try to just, engage in the party a little bit.
What is interesting, I think that you definitely have, commanded enough respect amongst this crew. I think that there's a level of, like, peer pressure, I guess, that comes into like this kind of camaraderie, and you might have expected to grab this drink and for everyone immediately to be like, down it. But they do kind of take note of it, and they seem pleased that you're trying to engage in it, but they're not like pressuring you. They're not hounding you, perhaps because you would notice sort of as they kind of like lean in interested, this sort of warning glance from Cascade of just like, don't and then they just, oh, okay. How long do you stay at the party before retiring to bed?
She'll stay for a little bit, not too long. It's been a big day. She'll look around to see if she can see Suri still, or if
no,
she's...
Suri's long gone. Suri is, you imagine, probably sleeping at this point. She definitely has only gone to the boat because about half an hour prior, Cascade had made some joke of, isn't it past your bedtime? And she'd taken great offense to that and gave back as good as she got, but about half an hour later had clearly gone, what now is an acceptable amount of time for it not to be that I was following orders. And so she's probably gone to bed, and by bed I mean her little rowboat, that she kind of has the tarpaulin, and she her little nook, her little cubby.
So I think Callista will make a mental note to seek Suri out at a later date and just maybe gently tell her to, or ask her to maybe be a little nicer to Hector.
We're kind of working at both ends, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So you're heading down to bed. You get down there. Estrella is asleep. She seems perfectly peaceful. You kind of find her. She's sort of laying down. And the thing that you would note, obviously, as you note every night, is that as she's fallen asleep, she's holding on to this small glass orb, and she's clutching it quite tightly. Probably if you were to ask her about it, Estrella would say, oh, well, you know, it's just in case something happened. I need to know. And you know, so that we can send messages. But I think you would be insightful enough to know that it is a little piece of home and a little piece of something much more important to her than that. And she is kind of passed out on the bed. Her little sparrow familiar is kind of settled down in a nest and sleeping peacefully next to this egg that is also in some kind of makeshift nest that the sparrow has made. And you are ready to go to sleep, Callista. Yes. So as you kind of like settle down to sleep, the pull of slumber takes you very quickly. And as it does, you feel that really strange sensation that you get when you're about to have some kind of vision. It's stronger than you've ever felt it before, actually. So much that it's almost overwhelming. Like you have, it sort of normally kind of hits you with a level of strength, but this is like, it feels like a sort of a wave sort of hitting you. It is very sudden and very, very forceful. Not unpleasant, but strange. You prepare yourself to glimpse some future. And I imagine that you are quite surprised when you open your eyes and you recognize that you are in the past. This isn't a vision. This is a memory. You stand at the entrance of the Pyrgnos, which is also known in Miletus as the Edifice of Knowledge. It is a glowing stone tower overlooking the coast and harbour of Miletus. It's very much reminiscent of a lighthouse, but it is only a short walk from Ifara's Great Temple, where you grew up. And it earned its reputation both physically and metaphorically because it is formed from the collected learnings of Miletus, recorded in scrolls, tomes. It's carved on the walls and stone tablets that kind of form the structure itself. And it's even transcribed in the form of glowing runes that kind of sort of swirl around in the air around it. It is your favorite place to go because here you can learn lots of really cool things, and you can also watch the sea because you kind of can climb to the very top of the tower, and it overlooks this beautiful Siren Sea. It's actually probably one of the best views of Miletus because it's so tall. So you can see kind of the whole city. You can see the pier and the harbour. And then you can see way out into the ocean, and sort of the coves sort of next. Sometimes on very clear days, you can even see like one or two sort of the way that the land kind of comes around. You can see like a fishing village that is sort of part of. It's not part of Miletus, but it is part of Miletian holdings, as they are called, which means that they are technically villages that are Miletian territory, but they are places in their own right. They are not actually Miletus. And you know without shadow of a doubt what day this is. As you're kind of standing at this door, you know exactly what's about to happen. You remember this very clearly. This is the day that you ended up having your very first vision of the future. And well, how are you feeling to be back here, first of all?
Oh, I love the description. I want to go there personally. Lulu does, but
yeah, me too. As I was writing it, I was like, oh, I want to go here. Sounds great.
Being back here brings back a lot of memories, and a lot of just that uncertain feeling that she had, and that the feelings of, even though she loves this place, of never really fitting in at Afara's temple, and not knowing, why she was there and why she has these gifts. So it just brings back a lot of emotion for her.
Yeah, I can imagine it's a lot, and you can almost kind of pinpoint like I said, exactly what is about to happen. You know that there's the boy that runs off, and then you see the octopus, and you go there, and it is at that point that you have this vision. And sure enough, it's almost like a countdown. You're kind of watching, you see this man walk past, and you go, any second now, and you feel it before it happens. You've lived it before. You see this boy first. He is sneaking his way around the building. His eyes are constantly scanning the area, and his arms, he's kind of clutching a couple of books that you know belong to the Pyrangos. Pyrgnos, sorry. And he's clutching them close to his chest, and he's kind of looking around, scanning for his you would probably know potential escape route. Then you hear the shouting. The shouting is what comes next, and the door in front of you bursts open, and an archivist from the Pyrgnos makes their way down the steps with guards in tow, barking orders, a thief, find him! And the boy makes a break for it towards the shoreline, where he no doubt aims to sort of lose himself amongst the rocks. There's a lot of, it's not this particular area of the cove that it's standing on, it's very rocky. There's not really any like beach as such. It's just a lot of rocks kind of all conglomerated together. So he kind of makes a run for it towards these rocks. And then the scene freezes, like it often does in your visions, actually. And it invites you to sort of dig deeper for a moment. And what do you think Callista would do?
Well, it's interesting for her seeing this again as a memory, but having her current memories too, and her roguelike training, and watching this boy try to escape, and what her rogue skills would do. But she can remember this, but she also, memories are fuzzy. And so she knows something momentous is going to happen, but she almost can't remember, but yet she can.
And obviously it didn't freeze in the original when this happened. Yeah. He kind of ran off. Instinctively, I suppose, what is Callista's way of wanting to explore? It's frozen in the moment. There's clearly something that whoever is sending this vision to you wants you to see or to do. So you've got this kind of angry looking archivist. Reminds you slightly of Hector, actually. It's not Hector, but just got this really sort of like very stuffy expression on his face, and he's kind of scanning the shoreline. He's clearly looking at actually like sort of the rocks, and this kid has made a break for it, sort of like behind a sort of long there's quite a lot of long grass around, and sort of shrubs, or like, I guess you call it like scrub, and he's kind of like ducking down behind these rocks and trying to get, and you can feel this sort of like pull of like, you have powers, because beyond your visions and your divination and everything like that, something that you've been able to do since you were very, very, very young, is you have been able to get in the heads of others, and you've been able to communicate with others, and it's something sometimes causes a little bit of sometimes a little bit disturbing to some people when suddenly just your voice is in their head, but that's something that you've always been able to do. I suppose my question is, you're kind of faced with a choice here. This boy is clearly taking some of the books from the Pyagnos. You can help him. You know, the thing that you know that he might not know is that there is a sort of radial shield as such around I knew she would do this. around the structure of the Pyagnos. It is, if he gets to a certain point, he will not be able to leave with the things that he has come to take without sort of dropping them or whatever. You, because you are a acolyte of Afara, I guess, you have the code word that you have the ability to lift said shield for a moment. So you could let him get away with this stuff if you wanted to. You could also let the shield remain in place and just see what happens. It's probably going to result in a boy going smack right against it. Or you could go even further and alert the staff, I guess, that have not quite seen him yet, as to his whereabouts. But you're invited also to kind of explore and see if you can glean more from what's going on here.
Well, she would definitely want to help the boy. Could she see what books he has?
Yeah, roll. I'm going to actually get you to roll an active perception check. I know that your perception is perception or investigation. I will let you choose.
Perception, that is a dirty 20.
A dirty 20. Oh, that's very good. The books, they seem to be an assortment. They are books on a couple of different topics of knowledge. One is a book that it seems to be sort of like tales, stories, I guess, of sort of heroes and monsters that they faced, and things like that. One seems to be a book. It's not like a book that teaches magic, but it is a book about magic, or about sort of history of magic, I guess.
And I think she would kind of try to follow him at a distance, but she would definitely want to help him, and so she would lift the shield so that he can get away, because he's got the freedom to go and do what he wants. And she also, you know...
Well, you're currently frozen, so he's not actually moving right now. Okay. Everyone is frozen in place. Like, it's only you that's able to move. Everyone else is like kind of like... and it's not that they're like frozen and unable to move, but still understanding what's going on around them. They're just like, it's like someone's hit pause sort of thing.
Well, if she could move down there, she would, just to kind of get closer, to get a better look at him, and to try to see if she can intuit what his motivations are for stealing the books.
So first of all, I'll give you a some physical description, I guess. He's fairly tall. He's very gangly. He's somewhat of a beanpole. And he has sort of a very like dirty blonde hair. It's almost brunette. It's sort of scooped back slightly into a little ponytail. And he he's wearing sort of like he has a little like tattoo behind his ear, and he is wearing sort of like very much street urchin vibe. Very similar to Suri's kind of general attire, general vibe. And he what his motivations could be. How are you trying to discern his motivations? Are you trying to just sort of get like an insight reading, or are you trying to look into his head, or what are you trying to do?
I mean, if she's able to in this moment, she would try to read his thoughts. She would also be interested, does his tattoo mean anything to her? Does she recognize it at all?
I will get you. Jen is cracking me up in the chat. Sorry. I will get you to roll. Let me see. Yeah, I think you could get the tattoos meaning with a pretty low DC, but I want you to roll a history check, I guess.
History, that is a 23.
That's quite high. I mean, you've lived here in Miletus for long enough. And again, you realize now why this boy reminds you of Suri so much. He has a shark tattoo, because he's sort of in his early teens, I would say, at this point. Maybe sort of just a little bit older than you were at the time that this vision took place. He's got a sort of small shark tattoo behind his ear. And he you can try to detect his thoughts in this moment, yes. So what's that? Do I have to make a thing?
Oh god, actually making me know how my character works?
Or is it just surface thoughts? Yeah, I know, imagine.
It's surface thoughts. I don't think you have to do anything for if she wants to delve deeper. I think you have to make a save. Yeah, if she decides to probe deeper, he'll have to make a wisdom saving throw.
Got it. Okay. So, surface thoughts. Yes. You kind of go up towards him. You can glean something. And actually going near him and being around him, you start to see... it reminds you of that, the vision that sort of brought you together with your friends. You can see sort of strands of a person's soul is what you presume it to be. Like Estrella's, for example, is this sort of silvery purple thread with sort of lightning kind of arcing down it, and the smell of a sort of summer storm. It's like very much every person has a very distinct stamp, as it were. This boy has the smell of it's the smell. It reminds you of a very like dusty place. It's there's a lot of fright in there. It kind of feels scared, and it feels like it gives you like this sensation. It's almost like it's almost a little bit not off-putting, but it kind of makes you stop and think for a moment. It feels like a small trapped animal. It gives you like that vibe of just someone, of just a person that is just cornered, but not in the way that they would be frightened. They're in defense mode, like a snake ready to lash out, as it were, because they're frightened. It's like very much like I'm frightened, so I will attack type energy that you kind of read off of this person. You would get from them, from their surface thoughts, essentially, you would glean a form of motivation. Yeah, they are stealing these books for their sister. Okay. But the biggest thing that you're getting in surface thoughts right now is, where's my escape route? What route am I planning? You definitely get the sense that they don't know that you get the sense that this is the first time that they have stolen from this place, and that they don't know that there is some kind of magical shield that will prevent them from going further than maybe in about 2 or 3 rocks time. And they're going to get a very nasty head bruise.
Well, yeah, and since she's not getting any nefarious vibes from him, and he does seem to have at least some good intent. She's a little wistful because she doesn't have anybody in her life that would steal for her or do something like that for her to make her happy. She's gonna definitely raise the shield and let him get away.
All right. So the shield, the scene kind of resumes. It's almost like the moment that you remember, because this is what Callista did. The answer you've given me now is what Callista did at the time. And the moment that you kind of feel Callista make this decision of like, I remember that I let this boy go, the scene kind of like resumes. The staff sort of still scanning around. The boy is running towards this thing, and he kind of gets to this point where he almost like sees it too late, this shield, and he goes sort of tumbling a little bit and tries to stop it, and he puts his hand on the shield and his eyes are panicked. And he looks around and he catches your eyes. And then you sort of do what you need to do. You make the gesture and the shield rises. And he sort of half starts forward as he kind of trips. And he doesn't like acknowledge you in any way more than he just kind of gives you a nod. And then he legs it, like fully legs it. And it's at that point that the Pignal staff member sees him and comes running down the stairs and goes, stop that boy, he's gone. And kind of the guards are after him. And then he's kind of muttering to himself, like, how did he get past the barrier? Has he got some kind of magic that allowed? He must have heard one of it. And then this guy spots you. And he comes charging over towards you. Did you let him go?
Did I let who go? I wouldn't even. What are you talking about? I wouldn't even know how to let somebody go.
Roll deception.
Yeah, I don't think my deception is as good as anything else.
Roll deception for me, please, Lulu.
Let me. Oh, why can't I? There we go. Deception. Oh, a whole +1. 19.
Damn!
Yeah.
Oh my!
I'm rolling pretty good.
Okay. Damn, Lulu. Okay. You honestly, I think it's the adrenaline. You're not normally good at lying, and you're not normally good at like being deceptive or anything like that. So, in a normal situation, you would overthink this massively, and you would go, and then it would cause you to fail in your ability to lie because you're not well practiced at it.
No, I don't think she can believe she just did this either.
Yeah, the adrenaline of just, you know, and what this is something that you really remember about this moment is that watching this boy just kind of like sneak away and then run, his life just for a moment just looks so exciting. And you just felt that sense of you felt, I think, at this point for quite a while, this sense of wistfulness. You know, you're looking out at the sea, you want adventure. You probably read a lot of stories about pirates.
Oh, definitely.
And I think that you kind of have this moment where you watch this boy who probably views his life very differently to how you're viewing it right now, but his life looks exciting and dangerous, and you know, he was stealing the books for his sister, so like it's not like bad crime, you know. It's like
right.
It's like the cool kind of crime, and you are so wrapped up in this moment that the words just come out before you even have time to monitor them and overthink them and let the anxiety take hold. The adrenaline of just like, I've just helped a convict escape just kind of hits you, and you kind of just very like, what boy? What? I didn't see a boy. And he kind of looks at you for a moment, and you know, he does that thing where he just like scowls and really glares at you. And the guards are just like, we'll go after him, and they kind of like run, but you can tell they're not going to catch up to him. Like, that boy was quick on his feet, and he's like pretty much long gone at this point. This man kind of goes, well, I'll have to inform the temple about this. This is just absolutely outrageous. And he kind of storms off, very angry because, you know, he's lost 2 books in his library of millions, and that's just terrible. But he again slightly reminds you of Hector. You watch after these guards and after like where you imagine that this boy has gone, and it is then that you see on a rock, all of these rocks are sort of these dark browns and greys and sort of blacks almost, and the waves are kind of going up against them. But on a rock a little bit further in, there's this very bright splash of red, or like a reddy pink, and the material, I say, it looks odd. It doesn't look like rock. It doesn't look hard. It looks almost like soft or a bit rubbery. With your perception, I will say that you can tell it's a bit fleshy, maybe. Kind of gross to say that word out loud, but so you kind of can see something is different about that area for sure.
Yeah, and that catching her eye, she'll make her way down, carefully picking her way through the rocks, down to where this pink pile of flesh is. That's a fun description.
Pink pile of flesh. Right, yeah.
Just to see what it is.
Just to see what it is. So you get down, you kind of pick your way down amongst the rocks. The boy has not been forgotten. You've had a very exciting few moments.
Oh, definitely.
And obviously you're looking back at this. You're yourself. You have your kind of knowledge and everything, your insight from the future. But you're remembering it. It's as if you're there almost. It's like all those feelings are kind of bubbling up and surging. You know what this is. you know that this is an octopus, and when you
Mm-hmm.
get there, sure enough, it is sort of sitting on a rock. It is roll medicine for me.
What is my medicine? That was a 9 on the dice. Plus 5, so 14.
14. So you can see that this is it's not doing great. It's very dried out. The sun is very high today. The temperature is very hot. As it quite often is in Melite, it's like the temperature fluctuates quite a lot because it's by the sea, right? So sometimes you'll have very windy, very stormy days, and sometimes you'll have like very sunny kind of weather. Today is a sunny day, and this octopus seems to have found itself stranded on the rocks. One of its tentacles is sort of embedded slightly between two rocks. It looks stuck, and it is drying out. It is losing the water that it needs to keep its skin sort of like hydrated enough to stay alive. Yeah, it will, and you remember this, it doesn't have long. So Callista has to act quickly.
And I think she goes down, and just having felt the way the boy felt, and that fear and being trapped that he felt like he was, and then seeing this poor animal that's trapped and can't escape, she will go down and lay her hands on the octopus, and for the first time in her life she will call on the divine magic that she has access to, that normally she only ever uses in service to the temple. But for this first time, feeling all of this and feeling that the pain of being trapped and of not being free and of losing your life, she will cast Cure Wounds on the octopus.
Cure Wounds. All right. And as you do, you can see immediately this octopus's, because there were sort of like wounds and cuts along its skin where it's like obviously tried to wriggle its way out and not been able to. You can see the problem. A part of the rock has kind of like hooked in on the skin essentially. So you manage to kind of pry this octopus off of it and sort of heal it. And that it might need a little help getting back to the sea. But now that you have cast the spell, you will be able to help it. And you will be able to kind of take it over to the sea and kind of gently lower it in and help it into the water. Yeah. Which I imagine is what you do.
Yep, she does. And she just says a prayer to Afara, to help this creature. And I think she would say also a prayer to Thassa, even though she doesn't really have a relationship with Thassa at this point. But she would just say a prayer to them to like help this poor octopus, this creature back to its home, and to be able to be free and to live its best life. And she will gently set it out into the water.
So you're asking help this creature to be free and to live its best life.
Yes.
All right. So you kind of gently lower this octopus into the water, and you kind of make this prayer. You appeal to Afara as you're on your way down, and then you kind of remember, actually, probably protecting an octopus, more Thassa's domain. Yep. And you stumble upon it a little bit because you've never really prayed to Thassa. It's always been about Afara. It's always very insular here in the city, even though you're bordering the water. And it's not like the priestesses have ever said, you cannot pray to the other deities. In fact, they do encourage it. But it's more to do with there's a very weird sense in Melitis of like loyalty. Even if it's not their domain, you pray to your own own deity first, and you're serving them before you're serving anyone else. And you lower this octopus in, and it begins to sort of swim out of your hands. As it does, the cool water around your fingers begins to warm up slightly, and you can feel almost this sensation as it travels up your skin, travels up you, and sort of your whispered wish, your whispered it's like something is trying to communicate to you. You can hear something, is it whispering or shouting or maybe even singing, and it's singing back parts of your kind of, it's sort of singing back like freedom and adventure, and it's almost like it's taking hold of all of these things that have happened in the last sort of 5 minutes. It's consolidating them down to a desire to be free and see more and do something else. And you once again feel that feeling of being trapped, but it is you feel trapped here. You're grateful, of course, and you love your fellow people at the temple, and you hold a very special place in your heart for a lot of them, but it's restrictive. And you especially think of your sort of high priestess, who has done a lot for you, and she's not unkind to you, but she's quite severe, and her name is Kafana. You think of her, and you realize that thinking of her gives you that same sense of trapped. And you're hit with your very first vision. Just plug myself in before I go into this. You're hit with your very first vision. It is, you see Miletus in all of its glory, like almost as if you're looking at it from the top of the Pyrgnos Tower. You can see all around, you can see the sea, you can see how beautiful and how well-founded this city is, how much work has gone into creating this society, this civilization. And then you begin to see things that you have in your lived memory never seen before. Or perhaps you have, later on in life, but certainly when you first had this vision, your very first vision as an oracle, you had never seen these things before. You see a city of trees stretching as far and as high as the eye can see, entwined with nature and the flowers and the rocks and the roots itself. You see a city of stone columns and military precision, defined by honor and justice and glorifying its endless wars. You see an ocean that stretches. You see a desert that never ends, a volcano erupting, a wave hitting, a rot corrupting everything it touches, the stars blinking out one by one. And then you see hope. These are outcomes amongst many outcomes. These are a possibility, not a promise. And with that, we will take a break as you kind of come out of this vision. We're going to take about a 10-15 minute break now, and then we will go back in and see where Callista is taken next. So if you have been joining us and you have been listening in, thank you so much for everyone that has kind of been here with us so far. We're having a ton of fun. I'm really enjoying these solo sessions. Lulu, I hope you're having fun too.
I really am.
And we will go diving back into Callista's the remainder of Callista's dream and Callista's moment, as it were. in a moment. So, see you in about 10 minutes. Cheerio. Hey everyone, we are back. We are back with episode 2 of I just saw, I just saw the octopus. Back with episode 2 of season 3 of Therosian Odyssey, Isles of Uncertainty. If you've just joined us, we are about halfway through Callista's solo dream. So far, we've interacted with some crew on board of the ship. We've tried to resolve a dispute and maybe started to make just a teeny bit of headway, but not masses. And we have now, Callista has gone to bed and has begun to dream. And so far, it's been a dream that has awakened a lot of memories of a time before all the adventure and the fun and the freedom. So, Callista, you just had your memory of your very first vision, and it's an overwhelming vision. It's one that, even at the moment, because it was the first time you'd ever had that kind of vision, it was something that you struggled to comprehend, struggled to process of exactly what was happening, what was in it, as it were, and you were like hit with a bombardment of images, basically. You saw the 3 main cities of Theros in each different place. You saw them even though you didn't know what 2 of them looked like. You kind of saw them as if you were soaring over them, as it were. You saw some natural disasters, but you're not quite sure what to make of them. And then you saw you felt the feeling of hope, the feeling that any disasters that you might have seen can be averted. It's all about choice. It's all about, and you do have that freedom of choice. Choices that you will make will define how some of these things play out. That's something that you understand. And you kind of feel this voice, this feeling, this vision wash over you, and you close your eyes. And when you open them again, you almost sort of gasp as if you're waking up. And you think perhaps for a second that you'll be back on the ship and this was just the dream. But no, you are in another memory. This time you are in your room at Ephara's temple. It is late at night. You are restless and bored and frustrated. And at this point, you are well practiced with visions. You've had a fair few of them. Mostly mundane ones. You've never had one that hit quite in the way that very first one did. It's been sort of small visions, small divinations, but your powers of the oracle and sort of foresight have been very much unlocked at this point, and you are studying hard under the guidance of your mentor, Sybil, who is Ephara's great oracle and who you are sort of being trained to take over from in the future. So, you wake with that feeling that you've had that vision again. The one of the Colosseum with the seaweed and the roar of the waves, the one that keeps telling you to find them, whoever they are. And you, under your door, you can see a sort of low light, slight flickering light, and it betrays that Sybil is up late again. Much later than she's supposed to be. Not that anyone would ever really tell Sybil, like, it's your bedtime now, but she's certainly been up late over the last couple of weeks at this point, you remember. Just sort of, you kept waking and she's still up, sort of thing. What do you remember doing?
Callista, having had this recurring vision, would you knock it off? Sorry, all of a sudden, all of my animals are awake, and they are all just being a pain.
That's a mood.
Yeah, but she would go up to Sybil's door and knock lightly on the door, and say, "Sybil, are you awake?"
You would hear from inside this sort of questioning of Callista. Yes, I am indeed awake. Come in.
And she'd open the door and go in and sit down.
It is sort of it is a room. It is a bedroom essentially. But it's almost like a bedroom and like a living room. It's a very fancy room, and in the center there is like a kind of sort of like plinth with all of her divining tools and everything. So it's sort of like a bedroom, but also a study in a way, but specifically designed for the Oracle. It's like the Oracle's room. It's and the bedroom is sort of closed off by a curtain almost, but it is where behind the curtain, that's where she sleeps. But she's clearly not even gone to bed at this point. She's sort of sat at this plinth. She's knelt down, despite her age. Hello, Millie. Despite her aging bones, and the fact that she's finding it sort of more and more difficult to sort of sit and kneel comfortably, she's still determined to do it. As far as what she looks like, she is a gnome. She has sort of long, grey, very light grey hair, and tanned dark skin. And she sort of has like painted sort of like white markings on her face. She wears sort of like the Oracle's sort of sash, and priestess's robes, and she goes almost everywhere bare feet, which most people are kind of like walking around in shoes. She refuses to, unless it's absolutely necessary. But she's not even in her bedtime attire or anything like that. It's very late at night and she's still very much up, and she sort of sat at her plinth with her divining tools, and she's sort of she's got some sort of runes in front of her, and she's like clearly trying to divine something, and she looks a little frustrated, but clearly she's not getting the answers that she wants or anything. But she kind of pulls back and she smiles when you walk into the room, and she's like, "Couldn't sleep, dear?"
No, I couldn't. And being back in this room, even though it's just in a memory, is very comforting for Callista. She always, when she was a little girl, she would come in and talk with Sybil, who seemed like her only family, her only friend sometimes at the temple. And so it's very warm and comforting in her memories being back in this place and in this room with this person. And she would go, no, Sybil, I can't sleep. I keep having that vision, the one that seems to be telling me that I need to go to Akros, and I don't know what to do. I can't leave. I mean, I have to be here. I have my training. I've got my responsibilities to the temple, but I can't ignore this vision, can I? And she's very uncertain at this point.
She sort of gestures for you to come and sit with her, sort of on the cushion next to the plinth, and she kind of goes, now, don't worry yourself. Sometimes these visions, they come to us at the most inconvenient of times, and she places a hand out for you to pop your hand on top.
And I do, and I sit down with her, and it's very comforting. It feels very much like some of her earliest memories have been spent in this room with this woman.
Yeah,
she feels very safe.
Even you've grown up with Sybil, really. Even before you started having your visions, what you have been told by Kafana and by Sybil is that when you were found as a child on the temple doorstep, Sybil sort of picked you up and had a vision that you would one day be a great oracle. And And it was Kafana that then made the decision that you would be a great oracle of Ifara, and so took you in. Had made sure that you were taken care of, made sure that you were safe and nurtured and raised in the ways of the temple and in Ifara's great light, and you would, at some point, your oracle powers would awaken. And it took some time, actually, to the point that I don't think Kafana was ever getting, touchy as such. But oracles, oracular powers can awaken at any point in a person's life. They tend to awaken in children, sort of once they reach sort of 6 or 7, and yours came when you were about 10 years old. So I think that in those few years, Kafana was like, are you sure that this is a good, because we put a lot of faith into this, and the greatest oracles, the idea is that the younger your powers awaken, the stronger they are. It's one of those things that, like, it's more of an old wives' tale or a superstition. People believe that, but the learned scholars of the Dicacia have done studies and have proved it's all absolute nonsense. But still, people believe that. They think that like, if you're not getting your powers the moment you hit 5, you are going to be a useless oracle. But obviously that has not turned out to be the case. And I think Kafana has definitely felt much better now. You've definitely awakened into a very, very good oracle. Actually, you have a very in tune with divination, and how everything works, and in tune with people's emotions, people's feelings, and how that helps your readings. And Sybil is very pleased with your progress. So you have been living with Sybil your whole life, because you were always going to wake up to be an oracle, so they were just waiting. It's only a matter of time, and then a training will start.
But people wonder why Callista was so unsure of herself and so nervous. Well, she had these whole years where they weren't sure, at least the powers that be weren't sure if she was ever going to live up to the expectations.
And I think that what I think that I will make very clear, it was never Kafana. She's not a horrible person. No. It was never like she would say it, as it were, but you could see it in her expression that there was a level of disappointment. She was never come across. She had always had endless patience for you, always had endless time. It's always tried in her own way to be nurturing, but she's a woman that the nurturing outlook does not come naturally to her. She is used to being severe and respected and authoritative, and so when she's got a child sort of grabbing at her cloak and asking her questions, she doesn't really know in the same way how to soften herself. And so she's left that mostly to Sybil. But I think that even in, Callista probably was a fairly inquisitive child, and probably overheard some conversations, at least, that she might not have been meant to hear, in which Kafana, again, not unkindly, but sort of almost sadly, or in some level of frustration, would raise that she was concerned that your powers had not blossomed yet, and how is she supposed to essentially convince Ifara? Maybe she even blamed herself, which would of course cause a lot of guilt. I must be doing something wrong, or we have angered Ifara in some way that she keeps this great oracle from us. There's been a lot of pressure and a lot of expectation on Callista's shoulders, and Sybil has been the antithesis of that. She is the first person to suggest that rather than do training today, let's just play a game, or let's just read a book, or why don't we go for a walk around the city today? I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling training today. Just to try, I think, she recognizes that you haven't really had a childhood, and she's trying to provide a sense of childhood because she knows she's lived it. She knows that once you become the temple's oracle, like that's it. That's your life's purpose, your life's mission, and you won't like. I think she sees that like feeling, that sense of trapped within you, and she wants to give you all the freedom that she can, so that you get to experience as much as you can before you truly are trapped in a lot of ways. So she kind of takes your hand, and she says, now I know I've asked this question a lot, but tell me again what it is you see.
And Callista will recount the vision of the seaweed and the summer storm and the rage and the music,
Mm-hmm.
and the silence, and them all leading towards Akros and the Colosseum,
Mm-hmm.
and how she just has this overwhelming feeling that she has to go and she has to find these feelings, these whatever they are, these souls.
Mm-hmm. I think she's been helping you, actually, when you've come to her and said, I've had this vision. She's been helping you try to, maybe when you first came to her, you were like, I see a Colosseum. It's not one I recognize. And she was like, right, let's try and find out where that is. And she's kind of like, brought in all the resources. She's had people that have kind of like artists come in that have sketched like what Akros's Colosseum looks like, and it's like, does it look a bit like this? Yes, it does. That's the one. That's the one I saw. And it's been a little bit like that for like the last few weeks that you've been having this vision, because she can see that this is an important one. So what you know about this vision really is all down to Sybil going through the motions of what she would normally do when she has a big vision hit her, which is research, essentially.
Right.
What does this mean? I need to know the specifics. Visions are always very vague. Gods are always very cryptic. And it's really annoying, actually.
Yes.
So we've got you got a whole like, you got like maps, you've got like history books, everything. That tower, the tower that you had in your first part of your dream, invaluable resource in trying to kind of like get a sense and a list of knowledge in terms of this. And she's been, now in terms of the souls that you've seen, she might have done some light research to try to see if she can establish who these people are. Are they well known? She'll have asked you questions. Do you when you touch the seaweeds, the braids, do you get any images or any flashes of their life or memories? Something that I can hold on to, that I can read. But of course the answer is no. You only get a sense of their soul. And it's a bit different for her, actually. Her kind of, the way her visions work is she gets like flashes of their memories or flashes of some defining moment in their life, which is arguably more and also less vague at the same time. But you kind of get this sense of who they are as a person instead, based on sort of the sights and the smells and everything like that. So she's kind of listening to you, and she says, I admit, Callista, your vision, this vision, it harries you in a way that your other visions do not. You might have them once or twice. They're small, they come to pass, or they are avoided, and we move on. But ever since your very first vision, which I'll admit, even with the hope part at the end, was a little on the intense side, you haven't really had any kind of strong vision in that sense. Whereas this plays on your mind, it stops you sleeping. And I remember the first time that I had a vision like that was when I was a child, and I had a great vision that one day I would be here at the Temple of Afara as the lead oracle, the person. And that was what I wanted more than anything. You know, I lived in a fishing village. I'd been divining for various people. Will we catch fish today? And she kind of sighs and sits back and get a little old. But I had this dream that one day I would be more. And here I am. And I love it. I love it here. I don't feel that you love it here.
I don't not love it. I mean, you have been so generous and loving and caring, and you've helped me so much, and I could never repay you for everything you've done for me, but I've just never really felt like I fit in, and I'm always afraid that I'm a disappointment, that I'm not living up to what they expected of me. And
there's been a lot of pressure placed on your shoulders. A very, very pressured situation. I always have felt finding you on that temple doorstep. Hello, Millie. No, girl, you need to move. We're going like this.
Okay, speaking of cats, I'll be right back. Okay, Katie, just give me 1 second. Okay. There, go. There we go. Sorry about that. The animals are not happy with me.
Are revolting.
They really are.
She kind of says, I always, we took you in as a very small child, and when I felt that you would be a great oracle, I never felt necessarily that it would be an oracle here. This was something, of course, that Kafana placed upon us, but I could see the value in it. It's important to be trained by someone who knows what they're doing, who has, we've given you many resources and tools that have allowed your gift to blossom, to grow. But sometimes, and the thing that I remember being taught first of all by my grandmother was that you must trust and follow your visions. And your vision, it's not leading you here to be our next great oracle. It's leading you further afield. In, well, Akros, I suppose, but maybe not even Akros. Just Akros is where you must begin, at least.
Wow, you've never told me that before. That I always just assumed that I would be here for the rest of my life.
How does that make you feel?
Scared? Excited? I don't want to leave you. I mean, you're the closest thing to family I have.
I know you don't want to leave me. I know that this is causing you a lot of indecision, but leaving me doesn't mean losing me. You know that.
I know, but I mean, I've always felt like you are my grandmother. I mean, you've taught me everything that I know, and I don't know that I'm ready to go out and become or face what I'm supposed to face. I know I have to. I don't want to leave. Not yet.
I think I know you're ready. It's just a matter of convincing you. And she kind of laughs. I think he often lightly teases you
Mm-hmm.
about your sort of your slight nervousness, your anxiety when you overthink things. He's just like, you're using that brain too much again. And I think that quite often when it comes to like, I can picture that when you have like these moments where you like a divining, you've kind of like had these moments where you've had this instinctive answer of like, this is what the runes mean, and this is what
Mm-hmm.
you know, this is what there's done, and then you've gone, oh, maybe it means, or it could mean, and she's just gone, no, you were right the first time. Follow your instinct, trust your instinct.
Oh yeah, no, she definitely should be using her wisdom, and rather than overthinking things, since she's not in game terms, her wisdom is much higher than her intelligence.
And I think she still has your hand, and she has a think, and she goes, I've been ruminating on your vision. At first it was to try to help you understand it. Obviously we've done all the research and everything, but truly I don't think that this one is going to let go of you. I think you need to go to Akros, and I think you need to do it soon. And I have an idea of how you could achieve that.
Well, I trust you. And it's a good thing because I don't have a clue how I would go about following my vision. And I mean, what about Kafana? I mean, she's going to be so disappointed. And
don't
she
worry
just goes on
about disappointing Kafana. I know that she comes across as very severe.
A little scary.
To the point of terrifying. But believe me, I have grown up with and known Kafana for most of my living life. And she does just want what's best for you, Callista. She has the interests of the temple in mind. And she really enjoys it when those two things align. But you are an oracle, and you must go where the gods take you. And of course, if Afara is leading you elsewhere, then who is she to get in the way of Afara's message, eh? And she kind of like winks. The Therosian Games are coming up in Akros. You know what they are? They're an athletics event. Akros opens its gates. Everyone comes in, and much. There'll be an event at the Colosseum, of course. And I wondered if perhaps I might be able to convince Kafana to let you join the delegation to go and watch the games. I will tell her you had a vision that you must pursue, that it is time, and I think that you are ready. You let me deal with Kafana. And then once you are there, perhaps you can look into things, see if anything stands out, see if your instincts tell you what you should do next.
Do you really think she'll let me go? Do you really think I'm ready? Oh.
If there's one thing that Kafana fears, it is my wrath. So she'll let you go if I make her.
Oh, I love the vision of this little gnome woman. Just like, telling this fearsome person in my life.
Incredibly tall elf.
Yes.
And this, teeny tiny little gnome just like, you will let her go. I have decreed it. And you get the thing, obviously we know that Sybil has definitely ended up telling Kafana that she had a vision that you must go to this games and look into. And it was with reluctance. But you did end up going. So and she kind of looks at you and she says, but it is very important, and I need to stress this. If you get there and your instincts tell you to stay, you must stay. Promise me.
I promise.
Whatever it takes. I mean it, Callista. You let me worry about things back here at home.
I will. I'm scared.
There's that sense of confidence. And it's gone. See, like the moment that you said, I will, and you had this look of determination on your face, she's like, that's it, that's the confidence. And then you were like, I'm scared. And she's like, well, meh. It lasted. It was nice while it lasted. You're going to have to work on that, you know.
I will. I'll work on... I trust my visions. I just don't know that I trust myself.
But your visions are a part of you.
I think she thinks about that for a while because they've always felt so separate from her.
I know you feel like the visions are bestowed upon you by the gods, but no, they are in some ways gifted to you, but it is you who interprets them. It is you who has... Think about the amount of people that have come here, listened to your readings, and have been helped.
And I think that makes Callista feel a little more confident because she has, you know, helped a lot of people, maybe on just smaller things when they should launch their ship, you know, and if they should go into this business deal or that. But still, knowing that people have listened to her and her interpretation of the vision has led to good outcomes for them gives her a little more confidence. And so she'll kind of smile and she's like, well, I always have wanted to see the world beyond the walls of Miletus. It is kind of exciting.
It is. It's a world of possibilities out there.
Oh,
Though I wouldn't recommend my old fishing village. It's very small, very boring. If you're going to go anywhere, go try somewhere exciting. You know, Akros is lots of soldiers and military types, and then there's Tessa, there's lots of trees. It's quite nice, isn't it? We don't really get an awful lot of trees around here. Maybe even the Dakra Isles, who knows?
Oh, that sounds exciting. I think I would like to go on a ship someday.
Yes, well, maybe you will. Maybe you will. And she kind of squeezes your hand, and she says, and once it's all over and you decide the adventure is done, you can always come home. You know that.
I do. Thank you. This will always be home. Even though it sometimes hasn't really felt like much of a home. I mean, you have, but... I'm not quite ready to leave, but I guess we all have to leave home at some time. And I know it's important.
She kind of, like, I think she's very wise as well. She'd see sort of the wistfulness, and you have a lot of unanswered questions about your life. I think she sees that as well. You know, there's a sense of my life began when I was found on a temple doorstep, but what about that small part before it? Like, what was that? What was going on there? Who am I beyond this oracle, this great oracle that was foretold to be? And she kind of gives you a look, and she sighs and she goes, well, doesn't really look like we're going to get much sleep this evening, does it? Would you like a cup of tea?
Oh, yes, I love your tea.
All right, well, take a seat. And she kind of passes, she's sort of like, sometimes as part of being like the oracle, you get like, it's not post as such, but you get like messages from various people like that you have to kind of write answers to. You divine the answers to their questions and then you write back to them. It's normally exactly as you said. Should I start my business in the spring or the summer, or like when will the tides be at the most fortuitous for me to catch my bounty of fish, or whatever it is. And it's normally kind of like these kind of requests. And she kind of like she does this thing where she kind of goes into like mock stern mode, which she's only joking around. She's probably the only person that could like tell you off and shout at you, and you would know with 100% confidence that she was joking and not actually meaning it. Anyone else, you would be like, have I upset this person?
Yep.
But she kind of goes, well, get started on those then, and it's almost like she's like mocking Kafana a little bit as she does it. And go on, grace the people of Miletus with Afara's great word. And she kind of lets you start to and starts to make up a pot of tea. And as she kind of heads over to sort of like her little kitchen stove area to start doing so, you kind of look up, and out of the window you realize outside, even though in the room it's as if it's dark outside, suddenly outside looks like it's bright as day. And also it's the wrong view. It's not sort of a view of the city anymore. It is now a view of the beach. And it's sort of like these like long windows that are doors that lead out to outside. And you can see the view of a sort of sandy beach. It is one that you recognize as being a beach of Miletus. And in the distance, sort of sat on this almost like drifted log of some kind of beech tree, maybe a palm tree of some kind, is a figure that you recognize. She is elven. She has a sort of a strangely ethereal, dusky pink, sort of almost glow to her skin. It's not quite a color that is usual, shall we say. And her hair is sort of braided into this intricate pattern and is this sort of strange, almost starlit silver. And you can see around the back of her head is the tyings of a blindfold. And she's not looking back at you. She's looking out towards the ocean, which you can also see as well. But you do get the sense that she is waiting. That she is as aware of you as you are now of her. And meanwhile, Sybil's kind of muttering on to herself about various things. But it's almost like she's kind of zoned out of the fact that you're in the room a bit. It's a very strange sensation. She's kind of repeating the same things over and over to herself.
Right, and I think Callista knows she has to go to this other woman, but she doesn't want to leave the warmth and the comfort of Sybil's room and of the memories of being in this room with Sybil, and just the feeling of family. But she knows she has to go and hear what this woman has to say.
Is there anything that you would want to say to Sybil before you head out?
Just that she loves her, and that she knows that she will live up to Sybil's expectations, and she will be a great oracle, and she will face all the obstacles, because she knows Sybil has trained her well. She might not actually believe all of this at the moment, but she knows that she can do it because Sybil believes in her.
And I think she's kind of muttering away to herself. She's sort of going, sugar, sugar. And she's sort of doing all the jars. And as you kind of like very sincerely kind of just be like, I love you. This is how I'm feeling. But, I will not disappoint you. I will live up to what I'm supposed to be. She's kind of like peering through the packets and she goes, what's that? Oh, yes, yes. And she goes, I've no doubt you will, yes. And continues on, and then she's muttering, sugar, sugar. And it's just this really nice moment. She's not going to turn around, you know that. She's not going to, like, it's not a choice as such. It's, you know, this figure is very patient. She's not like beckoning or anything. She understands that this is going to be a difficult separation.
Mm-hmm.
But the doors do open.
And Callista will just take one last look around, trying to like just put everything into her memory, the feeling of the room and the smell of the room and all of the wrinkles on Sybil's face. So she just wants to keep it all in her memory. And then she'll turn and walk through the doors.
All right. And you walk through them, and your feet, your sort of sandals, are immediately met by like quite deep sand. It's a very sandy beach, not like the rocky one over by the Feringos. It's a very sort of a sandy. The sands are actually very, very like white and pure and like the kind that you would see in a modern day holiday brochure. It is very it's very, very relaxing and peaceful. The birds are kind of like singing. The water looks crystal clear. Definitely not quite like Meletian water, especially in sort of certain areas of town. It's a fair bit dirtier than that, but there is this kind of sense of this. It's like an almost like perfect version of what this place. You recognize the place, you know, I know where that tree is and that rock is. I've been here before, but it's like a perfect version of it. And this priestess is sort of sitting on this log. She's still not turned around to look at you. She's sort of admiring the ocean, even though she is wearing a blindfold. She sort of looks around as if she's looking around.
And Callista will walk up next to her and sit down and just be quiet for just a moment. And then she'll turn to her and say, "I'm ready. I'm here."
She will respond with an equal sort of weighted silence. And then she will smile. And what do you think you're ready for exactly?
I'm ready to follow my visions wherever they take me. I'm ready to stop hiding in the temple.
Well, you already seem to have managed that quite well, I would say, following those visions. They've taken you a variety of places.
Yes, they have. I imagine they'll take me to a lot more places.
I should certainly think so. She's still kind of looking out. She hasn't turned to face you yet. And you can see that this blindfold is made from very thick material. So she shouldn't be able to see out of it at all.
And Callista will just sit and think and wait.
It's pretty, isn't it? The ocean.
It's beautiful. I've always wanted to be out on the ocean and to feel the water and the spray of the surf, hear the birds.
Being on a ship suits you then?
I think so. There's only just a little bit of trepidation in her voice when she says that. She's a little concerned that she might get seasick, but probably not. But she's not going to let that show.
She looks amused. It's almost like she's sort of like reading into your mind, and you don't feel like any kind of like prod at your thoughts or anything like that. But you do remember that this woman has some similar powers to you. She she communicated with you. In fact, at a much greater distance than you could ever manage. She communicated with you via telepathy as well. So it's very possible that she could be in your mind at the moment and you wouldn't know about it. She's clearly not probing, if she is, any deeper than you know, to the initial surface thoughts, but she does smile as you kind of have that pang of like, oh, am I going to get seasick? And she says, you still have a little bit to learn, I think, about trusting your instinct and your abilities.
Well, Sybil says we always have more to learn, that we're never done learning.
Very true. Very insightful. What is it that you worry about?
Oh, geez, what don't I worry about?
That's a great answer.
Yeah, I don't know if it's Callista or Lulu saying that, but Callista would, I worry about my ability to keep the party together. And I worry about being strong enough to do what needs to be done. And I worry about my ability to interpret my dreams and my visions. I know there's a lot at stake. I don't want to let anyone down.
Do you know how much is at stake?
Not completely. I know there's hope.
That's the part that really stuck out to you, isn't it? And that's good. That's the part that is important. She pauses, I think, for a moment. Were you going to say something?
No.
And then she turns towards you. You are worried that you will not be able to complete what you are set here to do. And you don't even know what it is yet. So what are you worrying about, truly?
I worry about getting it wrong. Not having my own voice and not interpreting the dreams right, of letting people down.
Not having your own voice. I can understand that. When you are the voice of a god, sometimes it feels like your own voice is insignificant in comparison. How can it be important what you have to say when you are speaking the words that the very gods themselves want to express?
Yeah,
go on.
I mean, you seem to get it. I mean, Sybil always tells me that my voice is important, that it's me interpreting it, and that's what makes it. But I don't know. I'm not sure enough of myself yet.
You know, the deities are, in some ways, a little like mortal kind. They find trusting difficult. After all, the Nyx, it is a place of community where these deities must live together in harmony, and yet they must also they find conflict amongst themselves often, and it is difficult to know who to trust when mortals are inclined to having faith in all deities. So their messages may appear cryptic and confusing, and it is for you to determine how you see it. But they use those readings that you take as a mark of faith. It helps them to understand where your instincts lie, and through that, understand where your allegiances lie. If you have no faith in a god and you read only bad omens, then they will know that you lack faith. She kind of has a moment of silence, and then she says, I must confess, I am surprised that you are so calm sitting here beside me. I know that my presence in your life thus far has been somewhat turbulent.
I think Callista's a little surprised she's so calm too. I think this doesn't really feel... It doesn't not feel real, but it doesn't feel real either.
Oh, it's a keen observation. In a sense, this is very unreal. Melisse's waters are never this clean. Then she smiles and she says, but in a sense, this is very real, Callista. You are ready, even if sometimes you don't feel it. You have done exactly what you were supposed to do. You have brought these people together, and you have done so in Clothes's name, whether you knew it or not.
I think she takes a minute to take that in. And then she thinks for another minute or two, and she's like, I will continue to keep them together. I know I can do it.
I know you can too, as does Clothes. You've done an admirable job so far. And should anything go awry, then Clothes may have to step in and bring you back together again. And she's serene and calm as she says it, but there is a small feeling of an unsettling, not a threat as such, but you know what has brought you together the first time was a sort of an attack from a lion, where people could have been hurt and killed. And then the second time was sort of these people disappearing from the Tessa, and it almost lost Onyx, her mother. So while she seems serene and she seems almost sort of charming and pleasant and pleasing, there's a sense of this woman and what she represents. She is still representing a deity who at the flick of a switch could decide to unleash some small calamity in order to mold things the way she wants to. And that is exactly what Clothes is about. It's about the fabric of fate, the weave of destiny, these things are entrenched and they will happen. And they happen because Clothes makes them happen. Even if the participants in question are not willing or want to, Clothes has decided, and so it's happening. And there's some people draw great comfort from the idea of a destiny has been foretold for me, and so I can fulfill it, and it gives me purpose, and it gives me objective. And some people don't. And there's that sense for a moment of, that capability that you have to be something great and to be something more. And Clothes is offering you that. But at the same time, you can't help but remember when you dived into that boy's mind and that feeling of being trapped. It's just another it's almost like another cage. For a moment, is a bigger one. You know, it's no longer a cage that spans a room. It's a cage that spans an entire continent. But it's still a cage, and it still keeps you in its grip.
Yeah. And Callista's anxiety really spiked when that not really threat came up, but like, because she has a lot of anxiety about keeping the party together. And now to hear that, like, if she can't keep the party together, some Clothis might have to come in and intervene. And gods only know what kind of disaster that might be. So yeah, her anxiety definitely spiked. But she's good at like mimicking people, or so she's like she's able to stay calm because the priestess is calm.
Roll a deception check for me.
Oh, I knew you were gonna say that. Yeah, that's an 8.
An 8. Okay.
Yeah.
So on the surface, I think Callista thinks that she looks incredibly. Yep. Millie is not calm. I think Callista thinks that she looks incredibly calm, but the smile is just a little bit too wide.
Yep.
And the increased breathing and the eyes widening. And she turns to you, fully turns around to you, and she reaches and takes your hand, and she says, "I can understand that you are frightened, but let me assure you, you have already done everything that you were supposed to do, and you will continue to do so. And you need not fear your own ability to do this. Clothis has great faith in you, has great faith in all of you, and that is why she has opened you up to your next stage. This is why we are here. I imagine that you thought that you were being spoken to, perhaps not by a Farah, but by a different goddess." And she kind of gestures to the sea next to you.
Yeah, I never in a million years thought it was Clothis that was speaking to me. I mean, the seaweed, and I just assumed it was Thassa, maybe just because of my Triton heritage.
And you kind of think back to that vision that you had, and now no longer is it seaweed everywhere. It is sort of threads, and it's almost like the memory is being replaced. It's not a roar of the sea anymore. It's the sort of like rhythmic weaving of a loom that kind of sounds like, it's so loud that it kind of sounds like the rolling of waves. And she says, well, you were wrong, but you were also right. As I said, the deities, they sometimes coordinate, they sometimes work together. Ifara housed you. Thassa has granted you your freedom and some of you your powers. And Clothis has an interest in your visions and your powers of foresight specifically. It must feel frightening to have many voices in your head, but they are all there to guide you.
It's a lot to live up to.
It is, but over time, you will learn to overcome your fears. Think back to that moment when you were facing the woman, the spider woman. How calm you felt in that moment. How you reassured your friend. Draw upon that strength in all of your life. And sometimes it is good to think about things beyond instinct. Just don't let it cloud your judgment. Let it inform it.
I will. I'll do what I have to keep my friends safe.
Your friends are currently experiencing a dream of their own. Clothis is ready and deems you all ready to understand why you have been brought together. And Callista, it is big. It is calamitous. It is dangerous what she wants you to do. But she would not send you upon this mission if she didn't think you could do it.
And in a funny way, hearing that really reassures Callista, not so much the danger part of it or that Clothis has faith in him, but just knowing that her friends are also going to be in on the stakes. So hopefully she won't have to work so hard. Not that she's had to work so hard, but she's always worried that she won't be able to keep them together.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that they're going to know what the stakes are actually takes a weight off of her shoulders.
It's like a bit more shared responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, it's not just me that has to have all the answers now, thank goodness.
Yep.
But I think, like, you know, and I think you would get a little bit of a sense of how it might feel to be Estrella in some ways. Like, you have enough insight to know that, like, quite often people look to Estrella for sort of the answers around learning and knowledge and you know, I want to know the history and the facts and all of this, and she kind of has this sort of this feeling and this need to kind of fulfill that role, and I think that people do the same with you, but on a more emotional level. They expect from you reassurance and guidance and wisdom and understanding and insight into everybody's sort of like emotional state and how to make them feel better, and that's a lot of pressure as well. So I think that, like, that's something that you kind of have this moment where you can kind of appreciate just like that feeling like, oh, I don't have to have all the answers. And that's like a kind of a bit of a weight for a moment off of your mind. But she sort of takes your hand and she says, just remember, as much as you were chosen to bring them together, you are not alone in this. Clothis has brought you all together. You each have your own very special skills, and you will all learn things from each other. You will all make mistakes, but you will also do what is good and what is right in the end.
And I think at that point, she's like, we will. And I'm so glad that I have this group of people with me to go through this. I mean, even though Onyx kind of scares me, she's so strong and so full of rage, but also of kindness and empathy. And even though Eva, I can't read her and I don't know what she's thinking, but she's so curious, and she's got such a love of the world and of just this curiosity to feel the world. And Kalyuka, she's just so joyful, and her music just brings joy to everyone. And Estrella, I know she's so driven to find knowledge and to find the answers. And I'm just so glad, if I have to go through this, that I'm going through it with them.
This threat that you face, this mage in the Dakra Isles, she will use everything in her arsenal against you. And the biggest thing that she will feed upon are your insecurities and the things that you fear. So be mindful. And just remember, I know that you immediately thought that would make you the biggest problem in the group. But believe me, all of your friends have them. You must all be there for each other to remind each other how important and how special you are. keep that in mind.
I will. And I know we can face anything if we stand together.
All right. And she, at that point, she stands, and she takes off her blindfold. And you are met with two gorgeous, like it's almost the same color as the sea. Like they are crystalline blue eyes that they seem infused with something that you have never seen before. You know, like a lot of magic is sort of drawn from the Nyx, which is sort of like this like nebula that kind of is overhead, and it's very like lots of purples, blues, greens. But this feels different. Like this feels like a completely different kind of magic almost. There's just something about it. It's like an icy crystalline blue. And you've never seen anything like that before. And she holds your hands and she says, close your eyes.
And Callista will close her eyes.
And as you do, you can still see her, like her form. It's like an outline, basically. So it's like you're kind of like in darkness, as you would be when you close your eyes, but you can still see her and nothing else. You're now in emptiness, a void around you. And she is stood there in almost like this sort of like magical, she seems entirely composed now of this sort of crystalline blue magic. And she looks at you with these two beautiful blue eyes. And then there in the center of her forehead, a third eye opens. And that is where we shall leave it.
Oh my God, very cool.
We shall head off for now. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We have had that complete blast here with our second session of Therosian Odysseys Season 3, Isles of Uncertainty. We cannot wait to come back in 2 weeks' time, in 2 Sundays' time, which I believe is the 21st of April. We will be joining Eva, everyone's favorite Kenku ranger that everyone thinks is a rogue but is actually a ranger, living in the crow's nest, shooting arrows left, right, and center. And yeah, we will be delving a little bit into some of Eva's life and Eva's past and Eva's dream. So Lulu, if you would not mind, tell us a little bit about who you are, tell us about some of the things that you do, and if you have anything that you want to plug it now. And yeah.
Oh, hi, I'm Lulu. You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at LuluNWA. I'm not doing too much right now. I paint a lot of minis, and I'm currently obsessed with Lego minifigures, and I like to take pictures of them and just recreate scenes with them. And that's what I've been pretty much focused on right now, and my dog is freaking out in the background. Sorry about that. So yeah, that's me. I just paint minis, I take pictures of dice, and I play with my Lego minifigures.
Which is just awesome. And I love your mini like little scenes that you make and things like that.
Thank you.
Endless creativity, and I wish I could do the same. Cool. I'm Kat. I'm also known as the Law Mistress across the internet, or Law Mistress 93 is where you will find me on pretty much all social media. I have this Twitch channel, and my YouTube channel are just the Law Mistress, one word. And you've been watching Therosian Odyssey, which is my it was originally streamed on Girls Run These Worlds, which is a fantastic channel. I implore that you all go and check them out. But we will be moving the game now from season 3 onwards, and it will be a long-running campaign every other Sunday, so it'll be fortnightly. I also stream other things on this channel. Currently, we are recording our sponsored Tales from the Loop game, which will be, our first episode will be, I haven't locked down a date yet, but it will be at the end of April. So we're very, very excited about that. And that's going to be we're playing through the adventure They Grow Up So Fast. And it's got a guest GM, which is on Twitter. You will find them at @JC and yeah, I mean, we've had one recorded session so far. It's been absolutely phenomenal. I can't wait to record more and play more. So yeah, well, hopefully you will find that on the socials, more information about that, and check that out because when it comes out, because it's going to be fantastic. I also am currently doing some writing, and I'm helping Hatchling Games create a game called Argonaut, which is space and Greek myth. That's basically the pitch. So if you like the idea of it being the Odyssey, but instead of a ship on a sea, it's a spaceship, or in the starting adventures case, it's the Argo, then you should absolutely check out some of the updates that we have as that is developed, because we are racing through the development of that, and that should be kind of coming to Kickstarter sometime this year, or so I'm reliably informed. All right, I think that's enough. That's all I have to plug for now. I've probably forgotten some very important things, but we'll leave it there. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And we are going to raid. Let's raid one of my rolling podcast, because that is one of my lovely players over for Tales from the Loop. That is Fiona. And she is playing part 2 of the solo journaling game Don't Play This Game, which is essentially like a legacy, like found footage style solo thing where there's an entity getting you to do all sorts of horrible things. It's like very you will die in 7 days style thing. So I watched her play it before and had a really good time, so we're going to go over and raid and say hi, and thank you so much for joining us. Cheerio.
Bye.